Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Carpo's channel. Yeah, I'm sitting here. It's cold as cold could be outside. It's the place I wanted to do a video because it got clear and it's sunny, but it's still damn cold out here. And so I'm actually, yeah, I'm wearing my carp jacket. Actually, check it out, dude. It's got a bunch of carp on it. People will say, "Oh, a koi jacket." I'm like, well, it is. Koi are carp. And so I thought it would be kind of funny to have carp on my jacket. My name Carpo has nothing to do with fish, but anyway, it just became that way. So I've got my little black book here, which is basically my jotting notebook. I've got several different journals like this, where whichever one I can find I grab. But I took some notes, and I thought I'd just kind of share some about arguments, argument issues that we have with people. Really, it was about beliefs, because the previous page has a list of belief and I don't even recall if I went over that one, but I decided I'm not going to, because it's just not worth it. It's just about how, it's not dissing religion or anything, it's just about how we try to define what we believe and why we become defensive of it, because we can't believe that reality could be slightly subjective and that we might be wrong in what we were taught or what we want to believe. So we go on along our way and either ignore people who disagree with us, or we fight with them. And I found that it's not worth arguing. There's very few things worth arguing about in life. I mean, you can have a short argument. I'm not saying that arguments aren't valid. I'm talking about the type of petty argument where you're defending something that you know will go nowhere. Argument, by definition, in today's standards, is completely different from what I think of as, the Aristotelian argument, or trying to actually, derive a conclusion both people can walk away smarter from it. But the problem is that, the value of any belief system is how has it helped you and how has it helped others, and how much harm has it caused, if any. And that's why I think that things have to be closer analyzed, at least when we think that we are the only ones. So we get into the arguments based on many of these beliefs. And we find that the more we learn, the less we seem to have to prove. And this becomes a big problem, because it's like the gurus that walk away, if you will. There are plenty of people out there professing to know it all, but most of them don't know shit. And most people who do know a lot eventually realize they don't know shit, and that's why they opt out and stop trying to spread the word of something. Well, they finally realize that certain things cannot be known, and that's difficult for people to accept. I mean, if you can't accept that humans will not know everything, then fucking get over it. Pardon the language, but it's we can learn many things about ourselves, but we can never see the whole picture. It's just not for us. We're too small to understand the universal mind. I mean, it should be obvious to anybody that that's just the way it always will be. And that's okay, as long as we're here. And if we do happen to have an afterlife, or, any religion turns out to be right, and we're up there by the pearly gates going, shit, I got screwed. Can I get in? I'm sorry. The old joke, about that, about how burning in eternity in hell, the fear of dying is what we have, and that's why it's more important that we do share things that help each other live better lives. So this is why most people who are great philosophers or teachers tend to walk away from the controversial things and not argue. And so you'll see this reflected in YouTube videos, chat rooms, everywhere. The idiots speak the loudest. The idiots always have something to say. They are always the guy who, and I don't insult people who misspell things just because they misspell things, but many of these posts are, misspelled, and they're calling people sheep and idiots, and you're just rolling your eyes like, come on. People are deeper than just being sheep one way or another. They are sheep because we fit patterns. We have connecting strings and patterns which we weave within each other's lives, and we are affected completely differently each one of us. But the people who have the most turmoil in their lives, often that's self-caused. And often it's because of our own behavior. And we need to face up to that. When our own bad behavior causes us turmoil in our life, we tend to lash out at the world saying it's the world's fault. You know, why me? These are the people who tend to speak the loudest and tend to post totally negative comments all the time. Those kind of people, or decide to make others' lives miserable in their personal life, or treat their wife or their kids like shit, whatever it might be. And so I think that we need to, people, it's hard to deal with people like that, but there are people who just want to argue constantly about something. One of the issues of arguing from ignorance is that we're afraid of appearing dumb, and we're afraid of appearing like we don't know what we're talking about. And that puts us in a precarious position where instinctually, it has to do with our neurochemistry, and we just can't be wrong. It doesn't fit our paradigm. We can overcome that and learn to say, okay, I was wrong, of course, but in general, it's that defensive nature that we have that we can overcome. But being dumb, fearing appearing dumb shouldn't be the biggest issue. It should be not learning, because then you'll just continue to be dumb. And then there's the young-old debate, which is like, been there, done that, or you'll see one day. And the thing I've learned about age is that as you age, you change, definitely. But you also are constantly morphing, and you'll never really know what it's like to be older than you are until you get there, and you won't remember very well what it was like to be young because of our flawed memories. It's just the way our memories are. So it's not about age, but age plays a huge role in the differences that we have and why we argue about things. So we take that into account, and we should, and then get past the things that are age-oriented. But certain things like, freedom and honesty and truth we argue about, because we feel like other people are, oppressed, or we're oppressed, or whatever it may be. We tend to protect what's protected us. So we stand by the things that have worked for us in the past. So if somebody else conflicts with that, we want to argue with them about it. And that's because we've built temples. Now, if temples have strong foundations, they won't crumble. But if there are any flaws in that foundation, it's going to fall apart. And so if we feel threatened, then we retaliate. It's just how humans are. And it doesn't have to be, it can be metaphoric, but it doesn't have to be physical. It could be lashing out at others and being abusive, mentally or physically. And familiarity over change is preferable for the general public. We generally tend to want to keep things the way they are because of our fear of the unknown, which is basically rooted in our xenophobia, not understanding other cultures. But it's not always stupidity. It's just being human is difficult. Our fight or flight kicks in, and we want to get ourselves revenge on somebody who's harmed us. I want to check and make sure that there's still time on this. Oh, good. Pardon me, I needed a vape and a coffee. So we argue about the pettiest things, and you see it everywhere. And you don't see very many very intelligent arguments, and they don't go very long, if so. The people will generally walk away. And I've used this kind of as a guide for myself. I don't want to be one of the guys that argues about stupid things. And to be honest, when I started on YouTube, I guess, 7 years ago, we were all kind of internet noobs in a way. I mean, YouTube has come a long way and totally changed for the better or worse. I'm not in that debate, but in the beginning it was like the Wild West of comments. Anybody could post anonymous, and there were plenty of haters everywhere. And they're still out there. But now people have to be accountable for the things that they say, and they feel, signing. It's become, in some ways, I don't know, I don't want to get into the internet discussion at all. It's just about that's a totally personal view, because I know some people feel like everything's being cornered and privatized. Some people say, I love being advertised to, and I love having cookies so I can get to websites. Other people are like, no way, I want my secrecy, and going through private servers and proxies. And, you know, I've come to the conclusion for me that I'm just like, well, I'm just going to stay clean and not worry about it, because it's just too much of a hassle. I can't stress about things like that. But there are people who fear that we're always being watched and we're always being listened to, and I don't doubt them for believing that. But I bring that up because that tends to be some of the arguments I get into. When I'll argue, like, not always against conspiracies, but the extreme conspiracies. Everything that happens tends to be one. And so those people who tend to favor everything as a conspiracy, if I comment on one of their videos or say something, which I very rarely do now, because I've learned where not to comment over the years. Never comment on something like I got blocked from Alex Jones years ago when he first started his channel, and then I got blocked again later. And I was like, what the hell? It was the only time I'd ever been blocked, and I was only asking a question. And yeah, that's right, 7 years ago I was a dumbass. I mean, I was slightly, not a dumbass, of course, but I was sucked into the conspiracy realm and just kind of feeling it through. I never really liked Alex Jones. It was just that, I guess that's the thing. I never liked the guy. It was just that I felt like that I even spent time worrying about the world collapsing and the economy and the country and falling apart, and how, you know, pestilence and disease and anything could happen, solar flare, nuclear war. I just said, I gotta live my life. I have a family. I have things to do. I can't worry about that. But I can still be aware of that. No concern, just awareness. And I'm going to look back to some of my first videos I made on this channel. They were about prepping, you know, preparing for the unknown. And I was showing, like, what kind of dry food you should buy, and, you know, store water, and make sure you have this and that and that. You know, I can't deny that's what I was into. The beauty of the YouTube channel is that I can go back and look at those things and see where I was and say, okay, you know, where was I happiest during all my YouTube years? And I'm always want to say I'm happiest now, but I was thinking spiritually fulfilled. That, if so to speak, has so much more to do with, you know, your mindset. Everything is in your head. My Manly P. Hall days were very inspiring. I learned a lot from that guy, and Alan Watts as well. When I was into Eastern mysticism, Buddhism, Hinduism, they were fascinating to me. Of course, I come to the conclusion that everyone should, which is that, you know, no piece of the puzzle will complete the puzzle. They're all interesting. And if you need to fall into patterns to make your life work for you, so be it. You can go to church, do practices, whatever works, just as long as it doesn't exclude anyone else from a piece of the pie in the world, you know. Don't think that your friends are going to hell. That's kind of a bad way to view life. But to each his own, you know. It brings up a lot of arguments, religion does. And, of course, so do politics. And if you decide not to take sides, then you don't have to argue about it. So that's what I've got for today. Probably running out of time on my camera after making the microbiological video before this, so I guess it was more of a neurotransmitter, or yeah, can't remember the word right now. Biomediators, there we go. So check that video out. Talk to y'all later and have a wonderful day. Peace.